There we go. We are now recording. So this is where I have to get super professional, if it can ever happen. And what I can say is welcome to Rupal and Kelly, who are our wonderful part of the team. Rupal brings with her years and years of BBC presenter professionalism, and will be taking part in the question and answer session shortly. Kelly keeps all in order and monitors the chat. Um, and I think I've just got a couple of announcements to make now, just before we kick off to Wendy's presentation. Number one is, and I'll put this on the chat for the meeting, we've got the Vestibular VIDA Balance Awareness Week is coming up shortly in September. So I'm going to put that date on there. That's just opportunity to see what VIDA are doing to create awareness. And it's our chance to try and make a little bit of noise elsewhere. Because as most of you will be aware, very few people have heard of balance conditions. And at best, the general public think it's something that happens after one pint too many, or if you've been on a merry-go-round. So the more we can do to raise awareness, the better for the whole community. The more chance we might get better NHS resources, the more chance people might start understanding what a lot of us have to live with. Sounds a bit bizarre, but just a reminder now, the next meeting after today's will be the 12th of October, and that's got the wonderful Professor Peter Ray, who will be taking us through latest treatments for conditions. That does remind me of one thing, very important thing for all the new members. And I find myself saying this several times a week to people through email or on the phone. Please try and watch the old meeting recordings if you haven't done it already. You will learn so much about balance conditions from the experts we've had on. And a lot of that information will go into how to best cope with your condition, things you can do. So there's always something to learn, and there are quite a few hours. And I'll put the link on there of where you find it on our website. The last bit, and then I promise I will shut up. We've got 2 new members' stories on the website. Very good reading. I recommend it to everyone to read through what they've shared. Both stories have some really good features in it. The main compelling thing is to have tenacity, to have a drive, to keep searching for the answers, whether it's a diagnosis, whether it's to get the best treatment. But we need to do that because it's so easy to be put off by well-meaning professionals who will tell you there's no more can be done, go away, or you never get to see anyone. Just keep going. That's what we owe it to ourselves to find that better place in life. I'm going to shut it. I'm going to hand over to Rupal to talk us through Zoom etiquette. Over to you, Rupal. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody, and especially the new members. As Kevin says, I think it's really important that you will hopefully find this group really useful. So just some bits about Zoom. I'm sure that most of you are fairly familiar with it, but keep yourself muted. If you've got a question, you can either type it into the chat box, or there is a reactions button. If you click on the reactions button, if you're on a laptop, it's at the bottom of your screen, and there is the option to raise your hand at the end, and we will ask as many of your questions as we possibly can to Wendy after she's finished her presentation. And in the meantime, please keep yourself on mute. Kelly will be monitoring all of the questions that come up on chat, and we will try and get through them as quickly as we can. So thank you.
Super, lovely. Right, it now falls to me to hand over to our guest speaker today, a lady I've had the pleasure to know just for a few weeks, but I can assure you she is a wonderful expert. She's had if I dare say, decades of experience of treating people like us, and also has had the benefit is the wrong term, but she's had the experience of her own balance condition and problems with hearing. So Wendy is well aware of what it's like to be one of us. And then with her professional training and all her experience, I think we're in for a really good presentation today that, again, we hope is just going to help so many people to understand what's going on and possibly how best to approach their condition. So, Wendy, welcome to the group, and I'm going to hand over to you now. I believe I've got the job of sharing screen and running the slideshow.
Yes, please.
So,
Yeah, it's on you.
So everyone, remember when the slides start going backwards, it's not Wendy's fault, it's mine. So Wendy, welcome, and over to you. If you tell us a little bit about your past, and then I'll start sharing slide or sliding even. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to be here in front of so many people, all with balance issues, because it's been one of the passions of my career. I mean, I'm an old physio. I like the way Kevin didn't use that phrase, but what he means is this is an old physio. I've been a physio for more than 40 years, and for the last 20 odd, I've had a special interest in people with balance disorders. I'm a neurological physio, so I do a lot of people with brain injuries, nerve injuries anyway. And as I say, a particular interest in people with either damage to the inner ear causing balance issues or brain damage causing balance issues. So that's my professional interest. I've done a lot of training of people, of physios, to become vestibular rehab specialists. And so the first probably 3/4 of my presentation, I'm going to be giving you an idea of what I give them, what I say to them. It's sort of an overview to try and put these balance conditions into a context. It's very easy in the world of physio to look at things from a particular angle, but I want to go in from the overall, look from above, and then we can drill down a little bit into the particular. Thanks, Kevin. So my talk is called Brain Body Balance, because we all have balance, whether it's great or it's had some damage. We all have bodies, we all have brains, and we need all three to be working together to create our whole balance system. So that's the professional bit. The personal perspective is that 10 years ago, I had a sudden onset of a labyrinthitis. For those of you who don't know, it's inner ear damage. It's a problem in the inner ear. So one day I was fine, and then suddenly I had this catastrophic, I can't get up off the floor, because in one ear, the damage had stopped my balance system from working and also took my hearing. So I am profoundly deaf on that side, and experienced what you've all experienced in terms of, balance issues. So towards the end of the talk, I'm going to come back to that. But I want to look at the overall first. So we have the next slide, please, Kevin. Oh, sorry, you've already gone on to it. I've just realised. Sorry, no, you're right. I wasn't looking what I'm going to talk about. You were ahead of me. So there's 9 things on this list. So my first thing is apologies. I'm going to cover quite a lot of ground in not very much detail, but you can ask questions later. But I hope to give you an overview. It's sort of, we're looking at the forest by going up into a glider or something, and we're going to look down on the whole forest, because I feel that's not done very often. And these are the different things that I'm going to have general information about the vestibular system, the different parts of it, how balance is so fundamental to any organism that moves. the fact that it's an invisible illness. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on diagnosis, and I'll explain why, and also why I'm kind of not bothered at the time, and so on and so on. So, next slide. Just to put it in the context of development of the fetus into a baby, the brain and the vestibular development, it's really key to our development as an organism that we can balance. And by 8 weeks of gestation, so that the baby's still like the tiniest tadpole, but that little tadpole, which doesn't have any proper limbs, doesn't have arms and legs as such, it's just got little buds, but it already has the inner ear mechanism. And I'll show you later on what that bit is, but that balance mechanism is already fully formed. So no legs, no arms, but the balance mechanism inside your inner ear fully formed. By 13 weeks, the acoustic nerve, which is just the one that connects that into the brain, the acoustic nerve connection to the brain is actually already maturing. And on the slide, I put it begins myelination. Don't worry about that. All that means is that particular connection, think of it as a wire. It's like an electrical cable. It's such an important connection that it's already laying down a surrounding insulation layer, just as your cable to your TV has an insulation layer around the outside. By 13 weeks, it's already starting that process, because that's how important it is. By 20 weeks, halfway through gestation, it's fully functioning. It has no more development to do. So it's very early in our nervous system because it's very basic. And there's this I found this quote, and I'll be honest, I've not found great evidence to back it up. Well, they say that babies with a deficiency in the vestibular system are much more likely to be a breech presentation. When I go and look for the studies, I really can't find them. But anyway, you could see it might be the case. Next, looking in the history of our species, we're from Homo sapiens, but before that, there was an earlier iteration of the human being called Neanderthal man. And that's the guy on the right of the screen with a fur over his shoulder. He was chunky, he was muscular, he had quite a big head, and interestingly, his brain was 20% larger than the next iteration that came after him and sort of overlapped. 20% larger. So why didn't Neanderthal man survive? Why did Homo sapiens become the dominant species? And the only mechanical structural reason we can come up with is Homo sapiens has a much larger vestibular system. So he's much more agile. He might not be as strong as Neanderthal man. He certainly doesn't have as large a brain, but he's much more nimble. He can dodge the blows. He can run out of the way. So maybe that's why. Next. Sorry, Kevin, next slide now. This is a really interesting one. Which animal, land animal, forget anything in the ocean, which land animal has the largest vestibular system? And it's the cheetah, which happens to be the fastest land animal. And those two things are linked. The only reason it's the fastest, well, one of the reasons it's fastest is it's got the biggest vestibular system. So a cheetah is a hunter. We're all clear between the difference between hunters and prey animals. We are hunters because our eyes are at the front. They're both looking in pretty much the same direction. So there's quite a large overlap of field of vision between our two eyes. So that gives us a really good 3D perception. We know we can work out whether things are near to us or far away because of this overlap in our visual fields. Prey animals, animals that are hunted, that are eaten, and they eat grass because they're no good at hunting, have, like horses, they have their eyes on the side of the head. So they've got a huge field of view, but they've not really got much in terms of overlap, but they can see round the sides, a little bit of the back. And those animals are never going to be able to hunt because they don't have the 3D perception the same. Okay, all they can do is run away from something that's hunting them. So a cheetah is a hunter, eyes at the front. So it has to be able to keep its prey within its vision. It has to really keep its eye on the ball, on the target, on the man that it's chasing, or the antelope that it's chasing. Or in the case of this little video, if you were able to set the video running, Kevin, and just leave it running a bit while I talk, that would be brilliant. See if we can get that going. I'll continue anyway while he sorts that out. What I really want you to look at on this video is the head. It's a wonderful thing to see. Is it all right, Kevin? Have I done something wrong? There we go. It's a wonderful thing to see. Don't worry, it comes on in a minute. There we go. So as we watch it go, and now as it comes into slow motion, you can see that every bit of the body, even the tail, the arms, the legs, the back, and the neck is moving. And yet look at that head. Thanks, Kevin. Look, it's just still. The head is a still point in space, and everything else is moving sort of almost around it. It's just wonderful to watch. And that's why it's so good at hunting. It's doing that, by the way. It can go up to 70 miles an hour. It can't do it for very long, but it can absolutely go at 70 miles an hour and successfully keep its prey within its eyesight. So if you look from the front now, can you see those eyes? They're not moving. They're fixed on the prey. And now he's going, okay, I'm coming closer. So he's lowering his head because he's getting ready to catch it. So it's wonderful. It's a brilliant examination of how the whole vestibular system works. The eyes are a really important part of it. The muscles in the neck have to do this multiple accommodation to keep that head still. They make you not think the neck's working hard. It's working like mad to keep the head still. And we're going to come back to that for us, by the way. This does apply to us. We're not cheaters. That's great, Kevin. Thank you. We can go on to the next slide. Come out of the thing, go on to the next slide. So this is the technical bit. These are the things that I want to be sure that we understand how they all need to come together. We have 4 things that are involved in the vestibular system. And I want to be clear at this point because we're all a bit woolly, and I am completely guilty of this. We're a bit woolly when we're using language. So I'm going to try and be more specific. If I'm saying vestibular system, I mean everything that's involved in the feedback loops that keeps us balanced. And these are the things that you can see on this diagram. So balance starts with the thing at 9 o'clock, the vestibular apparatus, if you like. Kevin's there, he's circling it with his cursor. So those things, don't worry too much about them, but they're the bits in the inner ear that actually record where we are in space. They record lots of things, what we call the semicircular canals, and don't worry about it. I'm going to try and call that mainly the vestibular apparatus. And for a lot of us, the damage that we've got that means that our whole vestibular system doesn't work is because of damage in the vestibular apparatus. For a lot of us, but not all, I'm sure. I'll come to that later on. So if we go up to 12 o'clock on the slide, that's the brain. The brain is key. The brain receives all the information from all these other bits and it coordinates them. So always the brain is the thing in control. And we need to get our brains on side a lot. And again, I'll come back to that. Over at 3 o'clock on the right, we've got the eyes you saw with the cheetah. how crucial the eyes are as part of this whole system. And then below, I've put a diagram. So at 6 o'clock, I've put a diagram of the muscles of a side view of the head and neck. It's actually got face on as well. We've got an ear on there. But really, I could have put the whole body. I could have put the whole body right down to your ankles and your feet, because the brain has to coordinate information from the whole body. There's no doubt about it. The reason I chose to limit it to the neck is because that it's the area that I think is forgotten. And I just want to raise awareness of its importance in this whole system. And you saw that importance with the slide of the cheetah running. You can really see how those tiny contractions with all those neck muscles was key to keeping the eye steady. So all four of those things together make the whole vestibular system. Every single one of us here, including me, has damage somewhere in this system. Now, I'm pretty sure, I expect that nobody's had actual damage to their eye. Lots of us, I think, will have had damage, as I have, to the vestibular equipment or apparatus over on the left, the inner ear stuff. But there may be a number of members where actually the inner ear vestibular apparatus is functioning fine, but there's been brain damage where it links into the brain. Okay, so let's move on from there. We might come back to this slide. So, balance is fundamental. Why is it fundamental? Well, everything else sits on top of it. You can have the strongest legs in the world, but if you can't balance, you can't run. So it has to happen before strength. It has to happen as part of and before coordinate the fine bits of coordination. So if you think of a baby developing, it learns first of all to balance its head on its neck, and then it learns to balance its body, and only after that does it learn to balance its legs. It works through the system. Balance comes first, and then other things like strength and fine coordination. Those can all happen afterwards, but if you can't balance, they don't happen. Now I'm going to introduce something here that, again, we are going to come back to, the autonomic nervous system. Now, this is important, and I think, again, this is ignored a lot in balance issues. So first of all, and I'm sorry if I'm teaching my grandmother to suck eggs, but I expect there'll be some people here at least who aren't clear on what the autonomic nervous system is. A lot of physios, to my slight horror, have forgotten about the autonomic nervous system. They think of the nervous system as just the brain, the nerves that go down the spinal cord and go into your arms and legs and control movement and control feeling. And they remember that there's nerves to the eyes and the ears, and they think that's it. They forget that there's a really important, another structural bit of the nervous system that we call the autonomic nervous system. This is the bit that keeps us alive. So the autonomic nervous system keeps our heart beating. It keeps us breathing. You don't have to remember to breathe. It's going to keep us breathing. It's going to control our blood pressure. So it's going to control our digestion. Anything that is you don't have to think about for it to happen, that it can happen even when you're asleep. It has to happen even when you're asleep. That is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So I can hear you thinking, why do we care, Wendy? Why are we bothered? The autonomic nervous system is what is responsible for the fight or flight reflex, and we've all heard of that. That's that danger signal that it can be triggered to make us faster to run away from the lion. If a lion suddenly appeared in my room now, it would immediately, in far less than a second, it would trigger the fight or flight response from the autonomic nervous system. And this would mean that immediately I would be stronger if I chose to fight the lion, or I would be faster if I chose to run away from the lion. I'm in the runaway group, by the way. I'm like this guy on the picture. I'm running away. I would be faster, measurably faster. because of the changes made in less than a second by the autonomic nervous system. It would trigger that fight or flight. It would stop any blood going to my digestive tract. He'd say, this is not the time to be digesting your food, Wendy. We need to run. It would stop blood going to the thinking parts of my brain. It stops the thinking happening. When there's danger, you actually can't think properly. And you think, well, that's a flaw in the design. That's really bad. You need to be able to think about it. I'm going to argue it's a good design. That's my dog. Perhaps he's imitating. If you can hear any growling, it's my dog, maybe imitating a lion. If a lion appeared here in my room now, and I was allowed to think rather than just run, I'd be thinking, well, that's really odd. I've not seen a lion indoors before. Maybe it's a hologram. Maybe, it's a hallucination. And in that time, the lion would be pounced on me and would be eating me. But that wouldn't happen, I can assure you. The autonomic nervous system would make sure that I was running. Think afterwards, run. Again, I hear you saying, why do we care, Wendy? Because balance is highly prioritized in the autonomic nervous system. If I can't balance, I can't to be able to balance. And when that emergency switch is triggered, is not going to let me think. So one day I could balance, the next day suddenly cataclysmic, I'm on the kitchen floor. I can't balance. I'm a physio who specialised in balance conditions. So quite quickly I knew what was happening to me. I knew that, and I was still petrified. I was petrified because my autonomic nervous system was making me petrified, stopping me thinking. That's a normal reaction to what's happened. It's part of our brains trying to protect us. It's not our brains working against us. Our brain is saving us. It's doing its best to save us. Next slide. I am going to come back to the autonomic nervous system a bit later on. But let's go to stuff you're all happy with. And Kevin touched on this at the beginning when he was doing the introductions. He was saying, vestibular issues, they're invisible. People don't see it. And I really liked these two illustrations of Snoopy and Peanuts. And to those young people, perhaps you don't know who they are, but I grew up with Snoopy. So Snoopy's there. Snoopy's the dog figure. And he's there sitting on top of his kennel. On the top one, the sky's blue. He's happy. He looks great. On the bottom one, just with a few squirrely things in the air. I mean, what a genius drawing these cartoons. We can tell that he's unhappy and dizzy and life isn't good. And what we need to remember is we might be feeling like the bottom slide, but nobody else sees that. We look like the top one. So we don't get a lot of sympathy. And even if you get sympathy in the initial stages from your loved ones and your friends, they get sympathy fatigue after a bit. So if it's not suddenly back to normal, they're sort of, well, why aren't you? Come on now. One of the common things that I find that relatives and friends think is they go, you're not even consistent. You did that without any problems yesterday. You're not consistent. That's like with a balance issue. It's not consistent, I feel you don't get that same support. If somebody's got something visible, they've got that leg in a cast or they're leaning on the stairs. People give them sympathy. You're doing well. You're giving it everything you've got. Well done, you. Lots of pats on the back. We don't get pats on the back very often. I once said that to a patient group again about we don't get pats on the back very often. And I loved this. A guy piped up from the audience going, just as well, because if someone pats me on the back, I fall over. And I thought, yeah, good point. But for that reason, I do love it. If I'm treating somebody with a vestibular issue, if the patient's happy with it, I always encourage them to bring their significant other, that's the husband or wife or friend or son who's driven them there. I encourage that person, if the patient's happy, to come into the session, because I hope that they go out with a better understanding of what's going on, and that they go out a bit more sympathetic. I don't give them a lecture. I just, in the way I just mention things, I can very gently reframe their opinion of the relative. And so often the next time I see the patient, either the significant other themselves will come in and go, thank you for that, I learned a lot, I understand more now. Or the patient will go, that made a big difference to how, you know, the sympathy that I get, they understand more. Next. So this is an important message. There's that brain doing a workout. Remember that what you're experiencing with all the panic and everything, it is a normal reaction to damage in somewhere in the vestibular system. And so by thinking, I've got to subdue my brain, I've got to force it to get on my side, it's working against me. It's not. Your brain is doing its best. And, you know, it's not easy. So you'll feel those emotions that we all feel a lot with vestibular issues: frustration, anger, fear. If your presentation isn't straightforward, as is often the case, actually, and sometimes the medics and even the person themselves may be thinking, I'm not falling into an easy category here. Maybe it's all in my head. Am I making this up? Am I going mad? And remember, the brain, which is struggling, is actually, in doing that struggle, it's taking more of your energy resources. The brain's a greedy organ anyway. Even when it's having an easy life, it uses up to 20% of your calories, of your energy. But when it's struggling to balance, it's using even more. So the fatigue is real. And again, I'm going to come back to that. Next. Now, we're going to talk about diagnosis. This is a brilliant image. Kevin calls it the spectrum. It plots all the possible causes of vestibular problems, balance problems, whatever. It puts them in a really great position so that you can relate some to others. Don't worry too much about it. And I don't know how many of you have got a big screen, so I don't know how many can even read this. But if any of you can read it, if you look at the 9 o'clock to sort of 10:30 blue bit, that bit is where a lot of us will land. That's certainly where I land, because I'm a labyrinthitis. Anybody with Meniere's disease is in that one. So a lot of us, I think, will fall into that band. But if you can't see it, Lodge, don't worry. It is something you might want to go back and look at afterwards when you've got chance to maybe look at the presentation in your own time on a big screen. It's a fantastic thing, and it was created by somebody Kevin knows very well, I learned, called Professor Andrew Hugel. And yeah, genius, absolute genius. But it shows how many different balance conditions there are. But we've all got balance issues. We've got a kinship because we're unbalanced. But so many causes, so many. The thing that I say to physios is, physios love a diagnosis. And to them, that's the most important thing. And they'll say, once I've got a diagnosis, I know what I'm going to do with that patient. I know what their vestibular rehab is. My message to them is, do not let the diagnosis limit your rehab, please. And I said this before I had a balance issue, by the way. So more of that in a bit. Next. So while we're talking about diagnosis, it is important to get a diagnosis. It doesn't limit rehab. Why is it important? Why do I want you all to have a diagnosis? Well, it does, once they've managed to pin down where the deficiency is, which bit of the whole vestibular system has been injured, it does give us an idea of how this is likely to progress. So that's useful. That's useful. For some conditions, and BPPV, that's benign postural paroxysmal vertigo, is a bit of an outlier in this, because that's something that actually is very treatable mechanically. So although it causes balance issues, you ought to be able to get rid of it with the right head twists. But if somebody doesn't know that BPPV is what they've got, then they can't do the head twist, or somebody can't do the head twist to them. So there's a few where you really need it to get the right treatment. I would argue Meniere's is another where you really need to know if you've got that very specific problem, which is Meniere's disease, then you need to get your medication to control that sorted out as well. So for a couple of things, there's actual benefit to having a diagnosis. For many of us, like labyrinthitis, that you get the diagnosis, they go, okay, we know what's happening, we know what the course is likely to be, that's it, oh dear, nothing more to be done. That isn't true, by the way, but that can be the message. The other thing is, and I put it on the bottom of the screen, a prognosis can be given, and medics like a prognosis. They like to be able to say, this is what's going to happen in the future. So those are the benefits of a diagnosis. Okay, next. What are the limitations? Well, physios themselves can be very blinkered and think, if you've got a diagnosis like me of labyrinthitis, I'm just going to do what I do for all labyrinthitis patients. I'm just going to run through that and not look at me as a whole. And my message to physio, before this ever happens to me, by the way, my message to physios is always, your examination should look at every bit of the vestibular system. Just because the damage was done to the inner ear apparatus doesn't mean that now there aren't some other bits that are just joining in a little bit. In the struggle to balance, other bits can go a little bit awry as the brain does its best to keep things moving, keep things balanced. Think of it as somebody's had an injury to the leg and they get a lot better and they're walking, but they don't walk normally, they walk with a limp. And the limp might not be caused by the original damage, it usually isn't. So it's like that, it's like a limp in the vestibular system. So I always urge physios, don't just stick to the diagnosis and treat that. Do a whole assessment, please treat everything. And the message that I give to doctors, because I've done quite a lot of talks about vestibular rehab to medics who on the whole aren't doing the vestibular rehab. They just go, okay, you may need vestibular rehab. And often they don't say you may need vestibular rehab. They'll go, this is your diagnosis. Okay, it should improve. Goodbye. There's nothing to be done. It can't be fixed. So goodbye. And I want to urge them to go, just because it can't be fixed doesn't mean we can't improve it. So even once you've got a diagnosis and there's no treatment to be done in terms of medication, still send them for vestibular rehab. I'm sure you're all on board with that, but that's my message to physios. Next. Yeah. The other thing that I say to physios, and don't worry too much about this, but multiple issues can be addressed in rehab. Just because you've got one diagnosis doesn't mean you can't have something else go a bit wrong. And in the years that I've been doing complex, so I in latter years, I ended up with the vestibular patients who'd gone through straightforward vestibular rehab, and they would come to me going, well, I've had it at the hospital, and they just said, oh, unfortunately, it's not worked. You're one of the 20% it doesn't work for. Give up. So I was seeing the latter stages, only the 20%. If they were easy, I didn't want to see them. They can go to somebody who does it, you know. I see those 20% who've been told, unfortunately, vestibular rehab doesn't work for you. And it's not true. They nearly always had a bit of overlapping pathology. So they might be diagnosed as Meniere's, but they maybe had a bit of vestibular migraine just tinkering in there. Treat everything you find with your vestibular rehab. And the labyrinthitis or neuronitis, both are known to have that benign positional paroxysmal vertigo afterwards, a few months afterwards. They often get that, and that's so treatable. But if you've just been sent away by the vestibular specialist at the hospital who goes, I'm sorry, you're in the 20% it doesn't work for, you stop looking for a cause and you just think, oh, that's it. It doesn't work for me. And the other big thing is there can be an element from the neck. And if you remember that, can we go back to the slide 6, Kevin, the one with the different bits? So that's it. So a lot of people have damage in the vestibular apparatus at 9 o'clock. But in in the brain managing that afterwards, it really tries to stabilize the image by working those muscles in the neck. So look at the head at the bottom, those muscles at the top of the neck. The brain goes mad, sending loads of signals to those to try and keep the eye still, to try and make up for the lack of balance information coming from the inner ear. And so those muscles in the neck are now just like, so you end up with a secondary thing of your neck muscles now aren't working properly. So they're actually contributing to the problem. That's great. Thank you, Kevin. If we could go back to where we were, which was overlapping causes. That's it. Thank you. And that there's a real, I've noticed that on so many people, just a little bit as we go through the vestibular rehab, we're making progress with these difficult cases. And I go, oh, the last thing we find is we just need to relax off the neck, teach the neck and the brain to teach the neck. Doesn't have to work that hard. Next. So what I say to vestibular therapists, full assessment for every single patient. I don't care what their diagnosis is, you do your own assessment. Don't cut corners. I also say to them, if you've got a patient who's having investigations, doesn't have a diagnosis yet, still do your full assessment. You don't have to send them away. You can do your full assessment. You can pass the results of that on to any other clinicians, but you know, if you get going, you're going to treat what you see. Even in the absence of a diagnosis, vestibular rehab can begin if the patient wants it. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they go, I need a label. I need a label so I know what I'm dealing with. Fine, fine. So the most important message that I want to give to physios is treat what you see, treat everything that you find. Don't be limited by the diagnosis. Next. So I've talked a lot about vestibular rehab, VRT, vestibular rehabilitation, therapy, whatever, treatment, blah, blah. If you're a group of physios, I have a couple of slides where I throw some, you know, technical words at you because I want to impress you and get you on side. And if you don't think I know my stuff, you know, I've got to use technical things and bamboozle you a little bit so you believe me. The plain language summary is at the right-hand side. It's easy. What are we doing? We're retraining the brain. That's what we're doing. We can't fix the damage that has happened to the inner ear. Can't fix it. So people often think that vestibular rehab is working on the inner ear. No, it's not. It's not. The inner ear is what it is. That vestibular apparatus has either been damaged or it hasn't. We can't change that. We're teaching the brain how to balance despite the fact that it's got skewed information. Really important. It's got skewed information and it's one-sided. So we've got two balance mechanisms and they're here just inside of your ear, literally in there, in your head. So we've got those two things in there balancing all the movements that we do. If we only had one balance system, you wouldn't put it at one side, you put it in the center. So you've got a good symmetrical view. It wouldn't be as good, but at least it would be symmetrical. What's happened to you and I is one isn't giving good information. So we're left with a single system, but it's right over at one side. So that's a problem. It's one-sided. And the second problem is the brain still thinks the other side's sort of working and trying to integrate information from it. And we need to teach the brain the other side's rubbish. So that's what we're doing with our vestibular rehab. Next. I'm just going a bit over time. I'm nearly there, Kevin. Are we happy? Yeah, great. So we're teaching the brain a new skill. We're teaching it how to interpret the new information it's given. And you may also be saying to me, well, Wendy, I've been balancing for years now on this damaged system. Why has my brain not sorted it out better? Why isn't it just back to, you know, doing its best, somewhere near normal? Sometimes that happens, but more often it doesn't. And if you think about any skill, if you can't read and I give you, you know, War and Peace, well, any book, if I just give you an easy novel to read, but you can't read, you can keep looking at that novel for years and you're not going to learn to read. But if I give you an easy book that has like 3 words in it with some really good pictures next to it, you know, a children's learning book, you'll learn to read, but step by step. It's like a child. That's what we're doing with our vestibular rehab. That's simple. The brain can't go straight in at the novel. Just like if you want to learn the piano, you don't pick up a Beethoven sonata to learn on. You start off with something much, much easier. Just one hand, first of all, few notes. That's what we're doing with our vestibular rehab. We're doing that one-handed, slow piano practice. Okay. Next slide. I mentioned the autonomic nervous system. This is a message for all of you. We talked about the fight or flight, and we talked about how it overrides thinking. Because as somebody who's unbalanced, we can be triggered into that stress response, that danger response of, oh, this is hard now because I'm not that balanced. We need to give the brain and the body time to rest. So when we do get the opportunity, help the system out, please. Let it promote the opposite, the rest and digest or rest and repose response. And we all know what to do with that. Literally, if you've been concentrating hard and struggling and you get the chance afterwards, take a nap. Don't feel guilty about it. For goodness sake, take it. Mindfulness, meditation, really helpful. Controlling your breathing. For me, going for a walk. For some people, doing yoga. Listening to music. I don't mind what it is, but do what works for you to let yourself relax. I've put a couple of technical things on here that if you want, you can ask me about afterwards. I've sent a few patients over the years for a one-off session with a fantastic hypnotherapist, just because they end up with an oversensitive switch for their fight or flight. And it's just triggered by anything. And I send them for a one-off session of hypnotherapy to just damp that down. And there are some biofeedback devices you can buy to help as well. So if anybody's interested, ask me at the end. Next. All those same things apply. If you've got an exacerbation, a flare-up, remember it's not your fault. Don't be hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Rest, blah, blah, blah. Maybe even plan for it. Next. So I'm just going to I've got a little bit on my personal learnings. I've already mentioned how the fear element was really pronounced, and I knew what was happening. I knew the cause. But my fight or flight response was triggered. How scary it must be for somebody who doesn't know what's happening, which is usually the case. Hats off to you. That is a horrible place to be. I knew that it would be fatiguing. I knew that because I'd said it to patients for years. I didn't know how fatiguing in those early stages. If I was going out somewhere, I had to take little snacks with me, pork pies and things, because I couldn't get through without stocking up on food a bit. In the early weeks, once I'd learned to walk again, walking outside was horrible, because you know that what the oscillopsia, where every step the horizon's bouncing. And I love to walk. I hated walking until I found that if I had an umbrella, putting a roof on it somehow stopped that oscillopsia from happening. So I would walk around just for a short while with an umbrella up, even when it wasn't raining. Don't care, I was enjoying my walking again. In the very early days, I felt bad that I couldn't walk the dog. I said the dog was fine. He just said it was great having me at home all day. And I did have to keep reminding myself, don't hold your neck rigid. Next. We're nearly there, guys. I don't know how common this is, but I was appalled. My GP came out to see me, made the diagnosis correctly, ruled out stroke. That's what they have to do. It's not a stroke. I knew it wasn't, but they have to do that. Gave me the diagnosis, great. No explanation, just said, oh yeah, it'll get better. No suggestion I should be referred to a specialist. Didn't mention vestibular rehab. Didn't give me any help, no idea that I could get help for the hearing loss. Not a lot, it's profound, loss, but, didn't even mention it. Didn't do scans to make sure that the diagnosis was correct and that there wasn't a more serious and sinister cause. And that one, I told them, that's bad. as it happened, I do a multidisciplinary clinic with 3 surgeons, one of whom is an ENT school-based surgeon who deals with these. So he sorted me out with all those. He was adamant. He said, you're having a scan. And I went, well, maybe I saved the NHS a bit of money. It does seem very, very characteristic of a viral labyrinthitis. And he went, I don't care. We're just making sure it's nothing more sinister. Final thoughts. Last slide, Kevin. Thank you. My final message is, I want to leave you with, I hope you've got a bit of an idea of what an amazing thing our balance systems are. Absolutely wonderful. It's amazing what we can do. If you've got a great balance system, we've all just seen the Olympics. Every single one of those people, fantastic balance. You know, whether even if they're just running, but certainly the gymnasts, isn't it amazing what the human body can do? The guy there in that illustration riding a motorcycle on a tightrope. People can do that. Our motorcycle on a tightrope is probably just managing to walk in the dog, whatever. You know, we can learn to do it. We can learn to do it. And let's, without knocking ourselves over, let's give ourselves a big pat on the back that we've survived this. We are surviving it, and we're going to improve still more. And that's it. I'll hand back to Kevin.
Well, Wendy, before you go, first of all, that was wonderful, thank you, and it was really refreshing to see someone who has been on your side of the fence, but has encountered your own experience with balance. And again, sadly, I know you've experienced what most of us do with GPs not sort of really knowing a lot about balance. But it's lovely your overview of, you know, where all our problems stem from and how complex the body system is. Before we go to questions and answers with you, we did discuss this beforehand. One of the biggest problems we all face is we could wait, depending you are in the country, up to 1.5 years to get to see a specialist.
Yeah.
You might then wait many more months for ongoing tests, any sort of treatment. And there's a very similar delay to get any kind of rehab therapy. And I know whenever I do speak to a consultant and a lot of audiologists, they always say diagnosis is so important before treatment because we could be treating the wrong thing, etc. My point is, and I'm sure there are some members out there either here today or watch this later saying, surely I can do something to try and improve my balance rather than just sit and wait for 1.5 years and do nothing. So I know it's a really difficult subject, but we did come up with an idea that you could talk through to people that could try something that's better than nothing. But I know you're going to explain all the caveats, all the health warnings with this. But I just wondered if I share screen again, if you could talk us through what people could possibly do with a
Can I
balance
just say
board.
something first, actually, before we show that?
Yes.
That's a really good point you made, that often doctors in particular are saying you can't do any rehab until you've got a diagnosis. And I do respectfully disagree with them. So what I say is, look, the vestibular rehab is not, it can't break anything. We're just teaching the brain a skill. It's like saying you mustn't learn a language until you've had your dyslexia diagnosed or whatever. You can start to try and learn a language or learn to read in the absence of your dyslexia diagnosis. You may find it harder, but you can still do it, and you won't break anything by doing it. So I do disagree with the experts on this. And I would say to somebody who's got balance issues and is waiting for a diagnosis, maybe see if you can find a vestibular therapist who will give you some guidance in the meantime. So don't give up and think, well, I can't. They won't see me because I've not got the diagnosis. Some will. So maybe still do that hunt. And then, yeah, if you would share the screen, there's a wonderful device. I'd said to Kevin, I want him to buy what I call it a wobble board. I think they're more correctly called a balance board, but I like wobble board. You might have seen them. They're usually a circular disc with like a half a ball underneath. So you're balancing on a wobbly surface. And I gave Kevin some instructions of things that you can do on it, but that practices balancing from your ankles, which are actually very important, right up to those muscles in the neck that I talked about, and actually practices it in a controlled but actually quite difficult way. And it's a wonderful teaching device. Now, please be careful, folks. When I said you can't break anything, you can't break anything within your vestibular system, so your inner ear is safe, your brain's safe, and you could break a limb if you use it in a stupid manner and you fall off it. So don't break any bones, please. When you're getting on a wobble board, make sure that you step on carefully. Make sure you've got something to hand a wall or a firm piece of furniture. You know, a chest of drawers or the back of a sofa or an armchair or something. So you've got something to reach for. But then I sent Kevin this sheet and he was kind enough to actually put it into a format, and thank you for this, Kevin. That means that you can all use it. You can all just have a go at some of the things on it. It's not exhaustive. It's just giving ideas of how you can play around on a wobble board, starting off balancing on 2 feet, wobbling it forwards and backwards, wobbling it side to side, or standing still and moving your arms around, to having somebody throw a ball to you or throwing a ball yourself up in the air and maintaining your balance. So there's some ball throwing people, loads of things you can work on. Obviously, once you're good on 2 feet, and only once you're good on 2 feet, go on to one, and do the same sort of stuff again. Bend your knees, come up. It's a great thing. I absolutely love a wobble board, and I'd said to Kevin, look, they're not expensive, just buy one of these. And he went away and then actually found that he already had one, just hadn't used it.
Yes.
So use it.
If I can add that, PDF will be sent to all the members anyway, so you can download it. I will put a link up of where you can buy wobble boards from as well. But kind of the great message I've heard from you, Wendy, which is lovely to hear, is that we should try and do something.
Definitely.
The difficulty is we'll have with us today, we've got some 50 odd people. There will be some there who go, that looks like fun, I think I can manage it. There'll be others going, I wouldn't dare put 1 foot on it.
Absolutely.
And all I would say that I did try it, and I was surprised how quickly I could get better at it.
Yes.
But I always had something next to me I could hold on to.
Yeah.
And I would recommend you have family member or friend with you as well if you try this for the first time. But it's so refreshing to hear someone say, just try something. It's going to help.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we get so scared and don't do anything. So it's a really good message.
The wobble board's an interesting thing, Kevin, because people who've got no vestibular issues, they've got fine balance, will step on a wobble board and go, whoa, actually it's quite difficult. So, you know, it's really interesting. It's challenging for anybody. What's wonderful about it is almost magic, because it suddenly sends so much information up. Your learning is very quick on it. So it literally is a wonderful piece of kit. I absolutely adore it.
No, brilliant. If I may now, Wendy, I'm going to hand over to Kelly, who'll have questions from chat, and then RuPaul will help sort of guide us through that, and maybe some questions direct from members.
Great.
So I'm going to ask Kelly now, have you got anything for Wendy?
Oh yes, we've got plenty of questions for Wendy. She's going to be here all afternoon, bless her.
Great.
Group any together.
Yeah. Well, some of them are quite lengthy, so we'll see how many we can get through in the time, but yeah, we've got plenty to get us going with. Okay, so first question that we have got then is from Claire. And Claire said that she was at April's meeting sharing tips that have helped her pretty much cure herself with vestibular migraine.
Bravo.
And with this, she no longer gets triggered reading in the car, no longer suffers for a wobbly bench, and can drive for hours with no issues.
Wow,
But
well done, Claire.
she's reported that she still feels awful in a lift, like that she's sinking and speeding far faster than anyone else, and would imagine on a plane with air pockets and turbulence. She's put that Cawthorne Cooksey exercises I could cope fine with when I was ill. So what can I do to enable me to get in lifts and fly again? And can she still train the brain to what's normal?
Yeah, that is more difficult. The brain with any skill, is any balance skill, is very, very specific. So she's got really good at these really difficult things, but because she's practiced doing them, she's practiced them gently at first, driving short distances on quiet roads, and built up to driving on busy roads. And the trouble with a lift is we don't do it that often, and we don't, it's not easy to control. So yeah, it's tricky. I mean, you just have to kind of make it up. If you're really bothered by it, I have to say personally, I'm not that, a lift doesn't bother me that much, but I do notice that it's not something I do very often. But then I think if it's 4 flights, I'll run up the stairs because it's great exercise. But of course, if you're going 20 flights, you don't want to do that. It's how much it's in your life, Claire. If it's something you do a lot, then do 1 floor only, stop. Get everything completely back to normal, maybe having 5 minutes of meditation in between, do it again, practice that over a period of days or weeks, increasing the floors. Some lifts are speed, some lifts you hardly feel anything, and some lifts really feel bad. So you start off with easy lifts. Well, it's a lot of work, and you may go, actually, lifts aren't worth it. Now, the flight is a different thing. Because of course we want to fly and go in those. Yeah, that's really tricky. I mean, what can you say? You're just going to have to suck it and see. Do things that help. Remember the fight or flight. Remember the autonomic nervous system. So if you have just encountered some turbulence, or the flight's taken off and you're feeling awful, do what works best for you to calm down the vestibular system. My guy, the hypnotherapist, it took me years to find a great hypnotherapist, but he will do flight things in a one-hit session to switch off the amygdala, to switch off that fight or flight response on a plane. But yeah, practice switching off your own fight or flight response. Maybe you close your eyes and go in on yourself. Maybe you don't. Maybe closing your eyes is the worst thing you can do, and you're better to look at something. Is that thing, are you better close to or further away? Always control your breathing. Yeah, do whatever it takes. Don't feel guilty about it. You've done brilliantly, Claire. You'll get this last bit.
Fabulous. Thank you, Wendy, for that. Okay, so it's another lengthy one, so bear with me, Wendy, on this one. So this question's from Vimla. She said that her ENT consultant has ruled out Meniere's and BPPV, and they think that it's most probably her, what she's going through at the minute, it was caused by contracting measles when she was 13. And they said an infection could have damaged the balance mechanism in the ear. She's been referred for vestibular neuro rehab, and who's due to see these every week. And they've set many balance exercise program. She said right now that they're having difficulty doing the exercises, and the physio has said to her that hot and humid weather could worsen the balance problems. So the question has been, can you please recommend anything else that she could do to help with balance? And they've put, recently had a cyber knife radiotherapy to stop a small, I'm not very good at pronunciation, but meningioma in my posterior fossa from growing further. This has and still causes extreme fatigue, so it's very difficult to cope with just the balance problem.
Yeah. So it's like a double insult. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it is going to improve, but you've had that recently. So this is going to be a difficult time. Vimla, sorry, was it?
Yes.
Going to be a difficult time, Vimla. And so be kind to yourself. Your brain's now recovering from that. And although it's done to help you, as far as the brain concerns, it's just more injury. You know, it's good injury but at the minute it's still, you know, recovering from the injury, and it's getting used to the new situation it finds itself in. So I would expect that even without hot and humid weather, you'd have to go back in your vestibular rehab. I would expect you to maybe lose some of the early, more complex things, your exercises you're doing, go back to the easy ones, maybe just looking at your finger, follow it up and down, you know, some of those really, so always go back to those. I would drop the reps. So you might only be doing 3, doing it slowly against a very plain background. Be easy on yourself. Make it easy so that you succeed. You won't be starting off where you are. You're going to go back, and that's not a bad thing. It's just the brain's now got a new situation to learn. And so go back to that. Some people do find that hot and humid weather can make a difference. If somebody has MS as well, whether or not that's caused the damage, that is very much the case. I've known people with Meniere's sometimes find that. I've never noticed that myself, and I think most of my patients don't really think that hot, humid weather makes that big a difference. But it's what does it for you? The main thing is don't panic, simplify, always go back in your rehab, but try not to think of it as you're going back to go forward.
That's some really good tips in there, definitely. Okay, so next question that we've got is from somebody called D-Ross, and they said that they've been diagnosed with nystagmus, which is an eye condition which can affect balance, something I'm familiar with my diagnosis. And they've put, can Wendy explain a bit about how this can have a significant impact, maybe as much as ears?
So you saw on that slide where we had the brain at the top, the vestibular apparatus at 9 o'clock, the eyes, of course, were at 3 o'clock, and they absolutely, they're supposed to be giving that accurate information from the 2 eyes with this overlapping visual field that give us the 3D view. So once you've got wrong messages from the eyes, you've disrupted the vestibular system. They're playing in wrong information. So the brain has to make those adaptations. And it depends what, I mean, I have done a lot of eye work with people as well, with and without balance issues. Most of my work with patients with eye issues has been without, that their balance hasn't been affected at all or badly. It's mostly to try and get the eyes better, but you have to do what you do to sort out the eyes, and then let the brain get used to that. Again, go to easy conditions, easy circumstances, and build up to the more complex ones. So it's that same learning. So the only thing that I would say is to, if you're about to get, I don't know, prisms, if you're going to try that, then maybe don't even look to do anything. If you're getting prisms next week, wait, get the prisms and see how they help you. If you think, oh, I really like these prisms, that makes things a lot better, then you can start to do some balance stuff. If you think, oh, actually, they're no better, I'm not going to use those, you may think, well, they've offered something else, I'll wait for that. Or you may go, I'm going to try it now anyway. Remember, you're not going to break anything. You're just teaching the brain. It's like learning to read or learning a language. You can't break anything. Does that answer it, do we think?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. It's definitely got some ideas. So next question on the list is, have you heard of something called neurosim? Apparently it triggers the vagus nerve and is meant to be good for balance and anxiety. Personally, it's not something I've ever heard of. Or
so is it neurostim or neurostim?
It's spelled NUROSYM, so it might be just my pronunciation's rubbish.
So the short answer is I haven't. I'm just going to say if I can. I don't know if the person's there. Is this a particular device? So the answer is I haven't.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, we'll move on. No, that's
Shall we
absolutely.
should we just find out who that question was from, and maybe
It
they
was
can
from
just
Deborah
explain.
Lou.
Deborah, do you just want to explain what it is, or whether what you know about it, perhaps briefly?
Me? Okay,
Yeah.
yes. It's
Hi,
quite a
Deborah.
new. Oh, hi, hello, hi, Wendy. Really enjoyed your talk.
Oh,
Okay, it's something that fits over the ear and
Oh,
sits in there, and then it stimulates the vagus nerve. And they say it's helped people with POTS. And
right. So,
so
POTS isn't that. So, and that makes sense to me now. So, POTS is postural orthostatic. It's a problem if we were on that spectrum, that diagram where I said most of us have got damage to the vestibular system, we'd be in from between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock. POTS is down, will be down at the other end of that. So the vagus nerve controls the heart rate, your blood pressure, all that. In other words, the vestibular system itself, the vestibular apparatus isn't damaged. The brain isn't damaged. It's more of a blood pressure thing. So
okay.
so that device will help regulate the vagus nerve to help regulate the blood pressure. So that is a different thing. So yeah, no, I've not come across it because it's kind of not in my remit. If
Okay.
you've got orthostatic problems, you need your blood pressure looking at and all of that. So interesting. Sounds fascinating.
Thanks, Deborah.
Thank you for that. Thanks, Deborah.
Kelly, back to you.
okay, thanks for your help. So next question, again, is another lengthy one, so bear with me, Wendy. So person's put that their oppression, non-medical impression is that being diagnosed with triple PD is not really a diagnosis, as it has many causes, all of which have a different progression prognosis. Again, non-medical impression is that the cause of triple PD might have passed or might be ongoing, but their ENT seems to regard triple PD as needing no further investigation, just treatment for triple PD despite the cause being reoccurring.
Yeah.
And wondering if triple PD hinders identifying a cause or diagnosis. So the query is whether you think triple PD is a true diagnosis or just a classification of symptoms based on what you know.
Yeah, so that's a good way of putting it. When the patients I've seen who've been diagnosed, and I just want to be really clear, I've spoken a couple of times about BPPD, but there is also PPPD, which is a completely separate thing. And the P just means it's persisting. And basically, I agree. I think they'll go, well, it's not Meniere's. We've excluded Meniere's. We've excluded BPPV, so there's no treatment to be done. We've excluded nasty causes like tumours and acoustic neuromas. There's no surgery to be done there. You've not had a stroke. You don't look like you've had labyrinthitis or vestibular neuronitis. You've not got lots of things, and we don't know what it is. So we go, you've got a vestibular disorder, it's persistent, it often comes and goes. I agree, it's a I give up at diagnosis. So I've treated a number of patients with that as a diagnosis. So I don't mind, I'm happy to have that as a diagnosis. What I need to know is that all those other things have been ruled out. I want to, and I'll rule them out if necessary. So if I think they've not been scanned properly, if that nobody's examined for BPPV, I can do that. I can scan, and if I find it, I'll treat it. So that's easy. If I think they've not been properly investigated for many years, then I need to send them back and get that done. But if they really have been and acoustic neuroma the same. If I've got could be acoustic neuroma, I need the right brain scan, not just any old brain scan, the right brain scan. But once I'm happy that all those things have been done, then I do my full assessment and I treat what I find. And on the whole, even though they've often had it for some years by the time I see them, the brain, it's never too late to learn. You know what they say about old dogs can't be taught new tricks. Those dog owners must know that is rubbish, and it's just the same for our brains. It is never too late to do your vestibular rehab. Never too late. So I actually quite love treating patients with a PPPV because they've often failed in other situations, and they come with very low expectations, and then they're delighted with every step of improvement they make. But yeah, I agree. It's a bit of a catch-all for, I've not found a reason. There's nothing to be done. There's nothing to be done medically. There's no medication, no surgery, no manipulation of your head to move things through. Well, there's vestibular rehab, please.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, so next question that we've got is from Claire, and she's put, what do you recommend for people with chronic migraine? She's put that she had vestibular neuronitis in 2012 and then developed VM, which has increased in severity over the years. She's been stuck in a chronic loop for 2 years now with migraines every couple of days.
Oh dear.
Exactly, it sounds awful. And she doesn't feel stable enough to do her VRT exercises as they trigger more migraine.
Yeah, that's horrible. That's sorry, Claire, is it?
Yes, Claire. Yeah,
Claire, that is, you have my sympathy. I have seen a bit of overlap between vestibular migraine and neuronitis or labyrinthitis. Not that many patients who I feel have had both, but yeah, I've had a few. Obviously, once you're into the migraine thing, that's key, and to try and get on top of that, avoiding the triggers. And there's so many different migraine management things now that to be tried, from the different medications to you know, all sorts of things. There's actually, you may have come across it, I can't remember what it's called now, but it's a device you put on your, literally wear it like a band, looks like something from Star Trek, and it's like this metal band, and it puts some e-stim in, and that can be, I've had, I think it's called CEPH or something, CEPH. Anyway, there are many things to try for the migraine, but yes, when you're getting it that frequently, every couple of days, it's very hard to do your vestibular rehab. On the other hand, if you're getting it every couple of days, you can hardly get it worse. So I would say, once you feel you're at your best, which is pretty terrible, I agree, Claire, but once you're at your, okay, this is as good as it gets, and I know that tomorrow it's going to be awful again, I would go back to doing some very, very early, easy vestibular rehab. Literally, I would probably start, well, no, you'll probably know, Claire, as a gut reaction, which is most triggering to your migraines. Is it worse to keep your neck still and move your eyes? Or is it worse if you fix your eyes and move your head? Whichever one is worse, don't do that one, do the other. Do it really slowly. So if you go, yeah, and head movements, bring it on. Then don't do your VR on head movements initially. Just do it on head still, but relaxed still. Not, I'm keeping it still. Relaxed still. Even support it. Lean back in an armchair, support it. Keep your autonomic nervous system as calm as you can. Nice deep breaths, a bit of relaxation or meditation first. Get your finger. Maybe do up and down first, because often that's a bit less triggering than side to side. So look at your finger, head relaxed but dead still. Move your finger slowly, follow it with your eyes. Don't go very far. Up a bit, down a bit, back to the centre. Up a bit, down a bit, back to the centre. Slowly. How many can you do? Maybe it's 2. Maybe if you do it slowly and don't move much, it's 10 for today. I don't know what it'll be tomorrow, neither do you. But for today, maybe it's 10. Great. If you're still feeling fine, you may then go, okay, stay here, keep calm. Okay, be a bit more challenging. Little bit to one side, back to the centre. Little bit to the other side, back to the centre. Again, maybe just 1 or 2. I don't know what it'll be. You don't until you do it. So if you find, say you've done 5 of each, and at the end of 5 you're feeling, whoa, a bit wobbly, calm down, see how you are after. And if over the next few hours you think, well, actually, that was fine, I got away with it. I worked to the point where I felt a bit, which you want to do, by the way, but it didn't have any repercussions afterwards. Then, okay, that's where I am now, today, maybe for the rest of the day, maybe not. So I'll try it again, say 3 or 4 hours later. And
thanks, Wendy. I think we've got loads of questions to get through, and I'm just conscious that we want to try and get as much information out of you for as many people as possible, if that's all right, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's from just having a scan through what you've been talking, Wendy. It seems like some of the advice that you've given will translate for quite a lot of people in terms of sort of if they're finding their VRT exercises quite complicated and difficult at the moment, take that step back, bring it back to sort of the less sort of strenuous ones.
Yeah. You want to,
also
so
mentioned
the overall message is you want to practice success. You learn by succeeding. So when my kids were learning the piano, if they were playing a piece and they were making a mistake and they'd go back and play it again and make a mistake, I would say to them, because I never had to say to my kids, you must do your piano practice, but I did occasionally say, leave the piano. And they go, you're the only mum who tells us. I go, leave the piano, because actually you're better not to play it at all than play it wrong. You know? And they go, well, I don't want to leave the piano. Then what do? I go, you make it simpler. Do one hand at a time and do it slower.
Yeah.
That's the message, make it simpler.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some really good tips there.
Can I just go to Claire? Claire, was it your question? Claire, you've got your hand up on the screen.
Oh, it was just to say to Claire about to watch April's talk, where I talked about how I pretty much cured my vestibular migraine. So, but also to say that I wondered if what I'm aware of is that apparently you're supposed to have cured you or get on top of your vestibular migraine before you do the exercises. Is that correct?
Well, there's a case to be made for that, in that you want to be doing your rehab ideally on a stable environment, so you get to the best you can and then you do rehab to mop up the rest. But life's not always like that. You're not going to break anything by starting your rehab sooner, but it may be then you get your migraines more under control and actually you can, you know, you're better than that. But you're not going to break anything.
Okay, so we've got a few questions all relating to the similar area. So I'm going to group these all together because you can definitely tell it's holiday season because people are desperate to know from you, Wendy, tips for travelling as a passenger in a car, a bus, a train, ferry, whatever kind of is going on. Any tips to help make that a bit more easier? Oh, Wendy, you've frozen on my screen. I don't know if it's anybody else's.
Hopefully she'll be back any moment.
We're all poised, waiting.
Waiting, I'm keeping our fingers crossed.
To help us with travel season.
Let me mention the Sunflower Lanyard scheme. So anyone travelling via airports, I'll put the link up for that. If you're going to fly, do notify the airport you're flying from.
Definitely.
And they will take you through the whole journey of the airport, through every stage until they seat you on the plane. So I'll put the link up for that shortly. But we'll go, Wendy. Sorry, we lost you. We think your internet.
Yeah, I gathered that.
Yeah, your internet was taking your advice and said it wasn't doing it very well, so it stopped doing it altogether. So back to you now to answer that point, please.
Yeah, play around with things, find what works for you. The other thing, I have sent a number of people with big problems travelling. Some trains are better than others. The Pendolino trains cause people with balance issues problems in a way that other trains don't. And the autonomic nervous system is key in this. So if you're on a train and starting to feel a bit, a bit sick and things, to reframe that and calm down your autonomic nervous system, do some of your mindfulness, do some meditation, shut your eyes and just let yourself doze. Also, and this sounds like a stupid thing, but honestly, I love it. You know how if you're on a ride on a merry-go-round and as you whiz around, you're getting things, people go, wee! Well, the hypnotherapist that I work with, part of his switch off for the fight or flight is he teaches people when they feel a bit of alert to go wee instead of whoa. And I know it sounds stupid, internal wee, it tends to just send it away from the fight or flight. The wristbands that with the acupressure points on it's wonderful. Some people absolutely love those. Ginger products also help.
Brilliant. So lots of ideas there for us all travelling over the next few weeks and months. quick one from Naomi is, have you got any exercises that you could suggest to help prevent or work on drop attacks?
So we're now into the other end of the spectrum. We're talking about blood pressure and heart things. So there are things that you can do with the core to keep your blood pressure up. There are things. I really am no specialist in that. And so I don't want to step outside my area of expertise. So you're absolutely right. There are things, I know it's to do with increase the core activity to have a bracing effect and keep your blood pressure up centrally. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm not that person.
If I just mention, Wendy, drop attacks can have another meaning as well. I had many years. I went through a period of what was called drop attacks, and I can only explain it felt like someone was stood behind me, pushing me
Pushing you
down
over, pushing you
into the
down,
ground.
right.
And it was purely, I believe, a false sensation in my faulty system.
Yes. Yeah.
And bizarrely, my brain was reacting,
interpreting it,
and making my muscles push me down to the floor.
Wow.
Now, my answer, sadly, I couldn't find any solution for that other than my general treatment of calming down or killing off the response in the faulty organ. But I can say it was incredibly disturbing to know that you could have those at any time. And I managed to get the first one ever when I was queuing up to get onto a plane. And everyone around me thought I was either drunk or drugged or the usual horrible story. And just an insight into our psychology there, I spent 2 hours on a plane worrying to death how I was going to get off going down the steps. It was a Ryanair jet, without potentially killing people in front of me. So we ended up with a strategy of my wife delaying everyone behind me, and I let everyone get off the stairs first before I dare go down. That's what sometimes we call drop attacks. I really don't know how you deal with it.
Yeah, sorry. I've never had a patient report that to me, so I've never had to think before. Really sorry.
A couple of other questions, Wendy, around sort of like particular conditions. I don't know whether you can answer any of these. So again, just if you can't, just obviously say so. But Lenny's asked, what category does right-sided vestibular dysfunction come under?
So vestibular dysfunction just means it doesn't work properly. So I would say damage, injury, and on that spectrum, that circle, so it's saying vestibular, so it's saying that the apparatus isn't working properly. So it's that between 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock, inner ear. So all the vestibular rehab exercises completely appropriate. All the balance stuff, including the wobble board, completely appropriate. Yeah, inner ear is what it comes under. Inner ear.
So that kind of top part, yeah. And then Rosie's asked, she's curious about the difference between autoimmune inner ear disease and Meniere's disease. She says it's likely but not yet diagnosed with Meniere's disease, but also chronic fatigue syndrome, which is generally considered to be autoimmune related.
Yeah, I would imagine it going on well-being. Kevin may know this better than I do. There will be some people who've got CFS or may a higher proportion of Meniere's. In mind, Meniere's is a very specific thing, specific diagnosis, because this whole pressure that is different. So people with CFB can get vestibular problems and have if she's diagnosed with Meniere's, the treatment for Meniere's. Yeah.
Sorry, Wendy, we're losing a lot of what you're saying there. Just your broadband, I think, is getting a little weak at the moment.
Sorry about that.
I don't know. Was that the same for you, Kelly? Was
yeah, it was a bit crackly, definitely.
Yeah.
I could hear the majority of it personally from my end, but it just kept a bit crackly.
But it is, I mean, my understanding with Meniere's is it's partly my body was attacking myself. But even I know last year talking to a consultant, they were saying that they felt Meniere's was still not the full answer.
Yeah.
And in the future, they'll discover that Meniere's may be made up of 2 or 3
Things, yeah,
conditions.
I'm
So
sure.
it's very,
I'm sure.
very difficult. And in my years involved with the balance community, I can say I've met many people diagnosed with Meniere's, very few of us having identical symptoms. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
forever so difficult to know where we are on that spectrum and what we're doing.
Yeah.
But a general message to everyone is it's so common to have a misdiagnosis in this area. And if for whatever reason, if you're watching videos here or for whatever reason you get a feeling you might not have the full story, keep going back, keep pursuing it, because so many people have been misdiagnosed in the past, which I know is not easy, getting to see these people. But let's all stick at it. I'm a bit like an old broken record. Do keep watching our old meeting videos, because as someone mentioned before, there's some fantastic members sharing their stories of how they rose out of the ashes, for example, of vestibular migraine. And it's well worth watching these things to learn from others. Sorry, back to you, Kelly and Rupal.
Wendy, I've got 2 more questions for you in the chat. So when we are almost there, you're doing a grand job with rattling through them. So thank you. Yaz has asked about whether you've got any tips for helping her with sort of in daily life, in terms of maintaining a job, really. She's got labyrinthitis. So obviously something you're very familiar with from what you've said in the story earlier today. But
yeah, I
any
mean,
tips
it's
for
hard.
that?
So maintaining your job, the first thing that springs to mind is what sort of job is it? So as a physio, as a neurological physio, going back to work after being off sick with labyrinthitis, I was a private physio. So at least I could pace myself in that I could just choose not to treat as many patients, which I did. So I would book in a patient as a private neurological physio, usually for an hour. And I literally couldn't see 2 patients, one after the other at first. I had to have a gap in between. If you're an NHS physio, it's harder. But on the other hand, you get paid even when you're off sick. So the NHS, because I worked for the NHS for 20 years and then I've been in the private sphere for 20 odd. So NHS physios have some sympathy, but I had 2.5 months with no salary. And then when I did go back, I couldn't treat as many patients. I had to be safe with them. I had to know that I was able to, if they overbalanced, I had to be able to save them. It depends on your job. If you're sitting at a computer all day, that has its own difficulties. Okay, you're not worried about you can't catch your patients. You're not using up as much energy moving yourself around, but you've got all the problems of looking at a screen. You've got all the problems of what's the lighting like in your office. If you've got fluorescent lights, oh my goodness, I don't know how you cope. I really don't know how you cope. I think I would say if you're in an office, be proactive and be demanding and say, I need to be by that window and, move around or air conditioning that can throw, position yourself, be demanding, do pace yourself even within a desk job. You still need to pace yourself. And remember, if you're there sat at your screen, people don't really know how on task you are. So, give yourself every 20 minutes or so, have something you can put on the screen that for you means, right, I'm just going to zone out and calm everything down, do a little bit of deep breathing, whatever. But everybody else still thinks you're working.
Just really quickly there, Kate, I've just put a link on the chat. We've got an excellent page about employment and balance.
I was just thinking the same thing, Kevin.
Yeah, we are incredibly lucky. One of our members, Tracy Hudson, is an HR expert. And if anyone is having any sort of problems at work due to their balance condition, Tracy will have a one-to-one chat with you for no money whatsoever. The key bit here, and I won't go off on one, but so many people in the past with balance conditions have been unfairly dismissed from their jobs, cast aside after many years of great work, and basically thrown out because the employer feels, sometimes the employer feels they are being lied to, because how can this person be fine for 3 days and then ring in saying I can't be at work because I can't stand up. But just to end a very long story, you are, if you've had a balance condition for a certain period of time and it ticks various boxes, which many of our conditions do, you are protected under the Disability Discrimination Act. And there is unlimited damages should you end up in a tribunal against your employer. We have a downloadable leaflet for you to give to your employer that's not from you, it's from us, to remind them of the dire consequences if they don't do what they should do. Besides that, before you get to that, there's been new legislation, and it all involves what we call reasonable adjustments.
Yeah.
So with these conditions, you are entitled to go back to your employer and ask them to make reasonable adjustments. That can be lighting, changing computer screens. We have one member who had his computer linked to a hearing aid, so the all sound coming off there was great. So all manner of things can be done. It's reasonable is the clue in the word. What's reasonable to do for you? But things like working with screens, it can be horrendous if you've got visual preference problems. Little tip there, some member told me they found by having a smaller screen, as long as they could still read, the fact there was other stuff behind the screen that wasn't moving, when they scrolled the screen, stopped a lot of the problems. I'll shut up again, or we'll never get through the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much stuff we can talk on for hours about employers, and I won't open my box on that subject. But anyway, so last question then is from Catherine that I've seen, and she's diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis last summer, and also has vestibular migraine and labyrinthitis. She's asked Wendy, are they related, those particular issues?
I've not known, I've not known somebody, in my patients, I've not seen many people who also have rheumatoid arthritis. So I've not thought in my head, oh, I wonder if there's a link here. That doesn't mean there isn't. That just means I've not come across that combination. What strikes me straight away is people with rheumatoid arthritis often have neck issues in the joints of the neck, even if they're not aware of it. So the fact that she's got some damage to the vestibular apparatus, anyway, the inner ear, plus a widespread joint problem that probably is affecting the joints of the neck, even if she doesn't have particular symptoms from that, does make me think that, oh yeah, that she might be getting poor information from 2 bits of the vestibular. You know, we had 4 things on the vestibular system: the brain, the inner ear, the eyes, and the body, particularly the neck. She might be getting poor information from 2 things. So the brain's got it's a bit of a double whammy.
Yeah, extra.
But the brain, you know, can adapt. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Wendy, for answering all of those questions that were in the chat. Rupal, have you seen any more hands up or any of the questions that there are that I've missed?
Is there anybody else that has one final question? If you want to put your hand up, that I can see. Can't see anyone. Last chance.
Going.
Gone.
Oh, did I see one flash?
Did
There
I
is
see
a hand
one?
up.
Where?
Leonard.
Leonard, go for it, Leonard.
I'm going to ask him to unmute because we can't hear him. There we go.
You can hear me now, I hope.
Yeah.
Hi, Leonard.
Yeah. I've got vestibular neuritis, and I've also got double vision, and I've read in 1 or 2 items that a person with vestibular disorder who wears glasses may also consider switching to lenses with a smaller lens diameter to reduce visual aberrations. You know, I do have trouble switching from near things.
Distance to, yeah.
This is in the Avida. That's come out.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's come out in the Avida thing. I wonder if Wendy's got any comment on that.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think often it's a case of suck it and see. But yes, obviously your visual things are going to have some impact on your vestibular problems. So yeah, try it and see. Yeah, but in my experience, you'll know quite quickly. So it's not a case of you have to try it for weeks. You know, you'll know quite quickly. You'll either think, oh, actually that's better, or you go, no, that's worse.
Well, I've got an ophthalmologist appointment next Tuesday, so to look into that. So that's what I'm going to try next.
Yes, yeah.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good.
Wendy, lots of people sort of grateful, including myself, for today's session. And I think people are keen to find out if you are available.
So I'm not a treating therapist anymore. I have just retired, so I'm not insured and can't treat anybody. But I'm available, you know, for general questions. Yeah, general advice. So through Kevin, I think. Is that all right, Kevin?
Yeah. Keep questions coming to me. So Wendy, brilliant. Thank you so much. And I just remind everyone out there that Wendy's giving up her free time just for us bunch of dizzy people. Is so good of her to come here with, you know, all of that experience and knowledge. I'm sure, Wendy, we will be seeing more of you. So I get this feeling that this won't be the only presentation we have you on, I hope. But thank you so much for what you've done there. That has been great. Questions, email to me, kevin@lifeonthelevel.org for Wendy. And bear in mind, again, Wendy's just said the magic thing, she's just retired, so it could take days, weeks to get responses. So just bear with us. Just two things before we go, because I know we get into this time, I call it the cross-legged time. We've been sitting here so long, we need to move. I'm just about to put on the chat about our member-to-member network. It's an opt-in network where you can, all you do is give your first name, your email address, you can give a phone number, the nearest town or city you live to, and any diagnosis. I add that onto one big list. We're up to 120 people, I think, at the moment. The next list will be published in 2 weeks' time. So if you want to join this opt-in network, you need to email me in the next week or so. The reason it's so good is the members keep reporting back they're coming out of isolation, they are meeting people just like you with the same challenges, some of them in almost identical life situations, and you've got someone who just totally gets you, totally gets what you're facing. And you can start by emailing, you can then move to phone or WhatsApp. Some people that have lived near to each other have even ended up meeting at coffee shops, whatever. So please consider it. And there is another angle to this, that as much as we get support, any contact you make with other people, you are supporting them as well. And it's something I've said to a lot of members over the years. They've been very surprised about this because they thought they were just joining to be supported. But we cleverly turn tables on you, and you end up, through your experience, you become an expert on balance conditions. And believe me, most of you out there know a damn sight more than our average GP. And through that, you can get to share and talk to other fellow sufferers and be of great help. We've all been there when we thought we were the only ones. So just to talk to someone else who completely gets you is such a joy. Talking of that, we do have a list called Balance Buddies. There's not many of us on there, but I am going to be emailing out in the next few weeks to see if there are any volunteers. And all a Balance Buddy is, it's a bit like the network, but it's just saying, especially for new members, we automatically give them your email address saying, feel free to talk to these people because they've experienced whatever condition you've got. You'll know yourself if you feel you've got advice and tips you can offer to people. So I will be seeing if anyone wants to volunteer for that. It's not hard work. You would get contacted maybe once a month if that, but it's just the joy of helping others who are often in dark places because they're in shell shock. This has just happened and life looks very bleak. That is it from me. But Wendy, brilliant. Kelly and Ruth, so well done today in managing everyone. We're back October the 12th with Professor Ray, so do make a note of that. And again, the final message is, hopefully it's come through today, things will get better. So keep working at it. That lovely message from Wendy, even if you haven't got a diagnosis, you can't break anything. So let's keep trying new things and see if we can get our balance back. Yes, balance conditions are like a bad game of snakes and ladders. We think we're getting better and then we can come crashing back to the bottom again, but we've got to keep picking ourselves up and trying again and again. Thanks everyone for being here. All carry on now having the rest of a warm summer, we hope. And I'll see you all in October. But thanks ever so much, everyone. Brilliant, brilliant meeting. Bye all. Bye bye bye. Bye bye.